Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start off today's presentation with looking at what is a project to begin with. A project is a set of tasks that must be completed within a defined timeline to accomplish a specific set of goals. Here at NexSys, we deliver a wide range of different project types, including system upgrades, new implementations, and bespoke customizations, which are all unique in their own way and have differing goals and objectives. Project management is the application of processes, methods, skills, and knowledge and experience to achieve specific project objectives according to the project's acceptance criteria and agreed parameters. Project management has final deliverables that are constrained to an agreed timescale and budget. A key factor that distinguishes project management from just management is that it has final deliverables and a limited time span, unlike management, which is an ongoing process. In today's presentation, we are going to look at 4 steps on how best to prepare for a successful project. We will first off look at project deliverables and project management framework. We will then look at identifying stakeholders and their importance, and then move on to look at how you can build your project organisation and project team. Following this, we will look at the different types of project control administration and delve deeper into the project budget and project risks. Towards the end of the presentation, we'll then wrap up with a summary of how best to prepare for a successful project. However, before we get started looking at the deliverables and project management framework, we're going to take a look at some of the benefits project management can bring. So project management has many different benefits, such as a clear understanding of roles and responsibilities in communication. It provides a framework and structured approach to managing projects. Each methodology has its own unique set of principles and practices. It has increased budgetary control, control of project status, increased efficiency, clear business objectives, and increased visibility. It's also important to note that 37% of projects' failures are a result of a lack of clearly defined objectives and milestones to measure progress against. Project management can also bring your business many benefits, including risk management, to help identify and mitigate potential project risks to reduce the impact on your business. Traceability. This helps ensure the final product aligns with the initial requirements. Agreed project deliverables. By defining project timelines, milestones, scope and budget, helps prevent scope creep and keeps the projects on track. Improved relationships with stakeholders through establishing clear stakeholder communication channels. A valid business case, keeping the team aligned and focused. And tighter cost control through setting and monitoring the project budget throughout the project. Deliverables and project management framework. A successful ERP implementation is the foundation on which customers can expand their business, launch new initiatives, and improve existing operations to grow revenue and reduce costs. This is a single, worldwide, scalable, structured, and phased implementation approach, which consists of predefined inputs, activities, and outputs to deliver a solution on time and on budget. Here at NexSys, we use the ideal project management framework to run our projects, which derives from PRINCE2. PRINCE2 stands for Projects in Controlled Environments. To put it into a bit of context, it's a leading process-based methodology, which can be applied to any project regardless of the scale, type, organisation, industry or culture, and is used widely by the UK government and international organisations. To provide a bit of background, Prince was first developed by the Central Computer and Telecommunication Agency in 1989 as a UK government standard for IT project management. Although Prince was originally developed for the needs of IT projects, the method was also quickly adopted to include non-IT projects. The CISPRO ideal implementation methodology. So first we initiate the project, then we design and engineer the solution. We actualize it by taking you live on the software, and finally, you leverage the solution to continuously improve your business. Supporting the entire process is the project control and administration. This structured methodology uses our experience and knowledge of best practices for you and your customers to benefit. It provides visibility and accountability of our activities and services, and it uses your resources effectively, empowers your employees to know and leverage the solution for your business. And lastly, we use this framework to deliver all our projects and scale to meet your complexity or simplicity of the project needs and capabilities of your business. This example shown on screen is for a new implementation, so is a scaled up version. However, if we were delivering an upgrade project, we would take out some of the activities, for example, the gap analysis and resolution. Now we're going to take a short poll. If you can please take a moment to answer the question which will appear on your screen. Do you have a dedicated project manager within your business? And I'll just give you a moment to answer that. Okay, I think the majority of us have answered that now, so we'll close the poll. Thank you. Identifying stakeholders. An important part of preparing for any project is to identify the stakeholders. A stakeholder is anyone or any organisation that can affect or be affected by the project in any way. And by anyone, I do mean anyone. As you can see from the diagram on the screen, there are a lot of examples, and this could be customers, suppliers, shareholders, politicians. The list is almost endless. Stakeholder engagement is the process of identifying and communicating effectively with those people or groups who have an interest or influence on the project outcome. We are now going to look at 4 key steps and practices in stakeholder management that project managers will need to stay on top of. The first step is identification, and this is typically done in the early stages of the project through asking questions in the handover process or startup meeting, researching industry standards, the company structure information, and project documentation. The second is prioritization. Once identified the stakeholders, it's then important to prioritize them according to each of their vested interest in the project, as well as their overall impact and influence, as different stakeholders will require different levels of management and engagement. The third step is identifying risks and opportunities. So once the stakeholders have been identified and prioritized, the next step is to identify risks and opportunities, as these may lead to complications or even enable you to exceed the expected outcomes in some cases. This can be done through collaboration with your team and maintaining positive relationships with stakeholders wherever possible. The fourth step is relationship management, and project stakeholders are probably the most critical people who play a role in the project's success. So as a project manager, it is important to communicate with them effectively, get their feedback, and ensure they all agree on the project deliverables from the start and throughout the duration of the project. Build your project organisation and project team. A large-scale project requires various project roles to be fulfilled, both on your side and ours here at NexSys. For each level of the project organisation, a customer representative and a NexSys counterpart are required. At the highest level, we have the Executive Steering Committee, which consists of the project sponsor on the customer side and the NexSys executive. The next is the project board, which consists of the project leads from the customer and NexSys. The project managers from the customer and NexSys are next, followed by the process leads who make up the project team. Depending on the scope of the project, complexity and budget, multiple roles could be fulfilled by a single person, or conversely, multiple people may be required to fulfill a specific role. The role of the project board is to agree the project deliverables and objectives and monitor the work of the project team. In support of the project sponsor, the project board will own the benefits of the project and ensure that the project is on track to achieve them. Their responsibilities include agreeing baseline, time, cost, and quality parameters for the project and set tolerances where applicable. Directing and driving the project. So they'll monitor progress, including having full awareness of the impact of any decisions, associated risks, and mitigation plans. Signing up to their respective roles and responsibilities. Assessing the project throughout its life cycle to ensure the continued viability of the business case, for example, cost versus benefit. And finally, sign off by NexSys and the customer of key project milestones and end stage plans, change control, and final project deliverables. The project sponsor is an individual or a group that provides project funding and other resources and support to the project. The project sponsor is usually at the senior management level and either owns the project or is at least partly responsible for its existence and success. Their responsibilities include lead and be committed to the project plan, review project documentation, review highlight reports to assess progress against project target and milestones, work with the project board and key stakeholders to resolve project risks and issues, monitor project costs, and reports on project status to corporate or the project board. Once you have your project's needs defined, the next step is to start selecting your project team. It is important to choose people based on their competences, not just their job title. It's a common mistake for companies to just select the management team, but often they are already too busy. This can be an opportunity for you to give others a chance and find new talents within your team you never knew you had. Empower your team to make decisions. This will not only speed up the project, but it will also develop the skills of your project team. And support your team. Have each member of the project board adopt a member of the project team. They can meet with them regularly, champion their concerns, and escalate their issues. This way, you can ensure the project team sticks to the business objectives outlined at the start of the project. With that in mind, it is also important to consider a person's personal interests and personality traits. We are now going to look at the character profiles of key project team roles and what they are responsible for, and the personality characteristics best suited to them. So we're going to start off with the project manager. They are responsible for leading the implementation and overseeing the entire project, making sure objectives are achieved. Their special power is diplomacy and having a clear vision of the ultimate objective. The role is best described as overseeing the entire implementation. The project manager is responsible for ensuring objectives are achieved and managing each member of the implementation team. The personality traits are a natural leader, excellent communicator, an assertive nature, competent and have a high integrity. They are somebody who clearly understands the strengths and weaknesses within the team. The champion. The champion will be responsible for creating a buzz about the new system, encouraging the community to actively participate in the implementation, taking feedback from users and have the ability to turn it into something constructive. Their special power would be infectious positivity. The role of the champion would be best described as the spokesperson, poster boy or girl, and radiating charm and charisma. The champion should not only be able to sell the new system to practically every single person in the business, but they should be able to translate the vaguest user criticism into something constructive for the ERP solution to succeed. Everybody has to love them, but positivity alone isn't going to be enough. They need to be savvy enough to see where users are struggling, and the champion is the mediator between the solution and the people, infusing the company with enthusiasm for the new software and ensuring that the software caters to the feedback of the masses, so that ultimately the ERP solution is the best it can be. The personality traits of this person would be a natural-born salesperson, a natural communicator, charisma, and a good mediator and listener. The process guru. They are responsible for joining up the process flow and making sure the process suits the business. Their special power is seeing the galaxy. The process guru role will be best described as being one of the sharpest minds in your business, and you may have to have multiple people to fulfill this role. The process guru should already be the go-to people when questions arise about a process within their own area, and it's very common to have a few of these already running around your business, especially for the different areas, and I'm sure many of you already have. Now they need to get up to speed with the ins and outs of the process across the whole business and figure out whether the chosen ERP solution will deliver. But it's not just a case of seeing whether the current business process can be jammed together with the ERP software. The process gurus must be able to envision a new way of doing things, an improved process, and understand how the ERP software would help to deliver this. They need to see the numbers of the matrix and understand how they can be manipulated into new ways of doing things. The characteristics of the process guru would be to have a thorough understanding of the process in their own area, be able to quickly pick up processes across the whole business, a quick learner, and an extremely bright individual. The trainer would be responsible for training the entire community. Their special power is having the patience of a saint. The trainer role would be best described as likewise a prophet. The trainer should be a natural teacher. They must be able to adapt their teaching style to different levels of understanding and be willing to explain the same point over and over again. They need to be able to answer any questions, so a good understanding of the system is also essential. The characteristics of the trainer would be a natural teacher, the ability to understand and talk to employees with different levels of understanding, and have the creativity to find new ways to explain the same thing. The analyst. They will be responsible for translating data into something meaningful for business decision making. Their special power would be pattern spotting. The role of the analyst would be best described as a lover of detail, but be able to create a big picture analysis. The analyst should love making sense of information. They'll be responsible for translating data from the new software into something meaningful for business decision making and that means they simply cannot afford to make any mistakes. The personality traits of this person would be a lover of reporting and making sense of information. The data geek. They would be responsible for taking legacy data and putting it into the new system. Their special power is meticulous attention to detail. The role is described as a spreadsheet enthusiast. The data geek must have a passion for numbers. The personality traits best suited to this role would be a numbers person, an excellent at data manipulation, and natural spreadsheet lover. The last key role in the project team is the techie. They would be responsible for giving technical support to all users. Their special power is translating user speak to techie. As the role of the techie, this should be assigned to a person who knows more about the operating system than everyone else, whilst also having a thorough understanding of the organization's infrastructure. The spec of this role is to have a thorough understanding of the organization's infrastructure and operating system. We'll now take a moment for you to reflect on which individuals you think are best suited to fulfill those roles within your organization. So who would be your champion, your analyst or trainer, for example? And I'll let you have a minute to think about those. Okay, so hopefully you'll have a few people in mind and we'll carry on with the presentation. Project Manager. The project manager is responsible for managing the day-to-day project management of the project. It is important to note that this is a joint effort. As a NexSys project manager, we will work with you every step of the way. We are now going to look at the responsibilities of the NexSys project manager and your internal project manager and how we work together to deliver the project. The NexSys project manager would be responsible for management of the scope, production of the project scoping document, production and maintenance of the project plan, escalation of any issues to the project sponsor, planning and coordinating of NexSys resources, and delivery of agreed outcomes from NexSys services, chairing the project team meetings, monitoring of the project plan and detailed actions. This will include making any minor amendments to task timings, priorities as a result of short-term or unforeseen resource limitations. Reporting NexSys performance to the project board, management of project risks and issues list, and represent the NexSys project team on the weekly project meetings. The client project manager responsibilities are reports to and takes direction from the project sponsor, business sponsor, and project board, manages the project team, ensuring outputs are produced to time, cost, and quality, prepares and updates plans and resource requirements, carries out change management and produces supporting documentation, chairs internal project team meetings, manages risks and issues, and provides project direction, controls, and reports on progress. Here at NexSys, we offer 4 service levels of project management. The tier is dependent on the complexity of the project and deliverables, along with your needs and capabilities. Tier 4 is the highest level, which is a bespoke package available on request. offering project management services on your activities internally if this support was required. Project control and administration. Monitoring and controlling the project is central to the role of the project manager. A number of project control and governance activities support the ongoing implementation processes. These activities ensure the project is meeting its defined objectives, remains on its scheduled track, and within the defined scope and budget, and that resources are being managed effectively. This includes working with the project governance and approval process to report on overall progress and use of resources, and where necessary, initiating corrective action. The project manager is responsible for signing off changes within the project tolerances. Changes outside the agreed project tolerances will require the approval of the project sponsor or project board. Here are some examples of the project controls we would use throughout the different stages of the implementation project, and I'm sure many of you will already be familiar with some of these. During the initiate stage, we would create a scoping document, and depending on the project type, this may either be a project definition document, project initiation document, or DF12 customization for bespoke work. We would create the RAID log and document any risks identified, actions, issues, and decisions, which will then be maintained throughout the project lifecycle. We would also create a change control log, project plan, budget tracker, and communication plan. Within the design stage, the customer would create the test plans, a report and stationery catalogue to identify reports and stationery items required. The NexSys project manager will also compile a project status report to highlight the project progress. Within the engineer stage, the customer would be responsible for creating test scripts and quick reference guides. A cutover plan would be created and a project status report compiled as well. Within the actualize stage, we have the readiness dashboard and go live acceptance sign off. And then when we come to the end of the project, within the leverage phase, we have the project closeout report. A change often arises when a customer wants an addition or alteration to the agreed project scope and deliverables and are common in all projects. Change control is the process through which all requests to change the approved scope or project are captured, evaluated, and then either approved or rejected. Project changes are important to manage to understand the purpose, associated costs, and impact on the project schedule, and allows for formal authorization and traceability. If a change was to arise on a project, we require the project manager to be notified as soon as possible. For example, if you required on-site training as part of an upgrade project for convenience reasons, rather than the standard classroom training delivered at our Salford office. This would be classed as a change as it would impact the project budget and a change in the agreed scope. We would then document the change in a change request form as shown on screen, which includes the description of the change, reason for the change, impact of doing the change, the estimated hours, and budget required. This would then be sent over to the project sponsor for approval and recorded in the change control log. Only once the change has been approved and budget provided, if required, can the change be actioned and scheduled into the project plan. Shown on screen is the contents page of our project definition document, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with, and it's used to define the scope of the upgrade project. This document includes the project definition, which explains the purpose and drivers for the project. The project objectives are then broken down and defined in detail, along with the prerequisites and dependencies. For example, a prerequisite for a CISPRO 8 upgrade is to have a separate server environment for the software to be installed on, as this cannot coexist on the same server as another CISPRO version. Scope exclusions are also stated, which are items, tasks, or works that are not included in the project scope. And a typical example of a scope exclusion would be any custom integrations to third-party products would be excluded as part of the scope unless this was requested and arrangements made otherwise. The document also includes the project milestones, which is a high-level overview of the project plan with the project activities. The document also details project communication, the project budget, and resources, along with the project governance. Formal acceptance of the document and scope approval is agreed through the sign-off at the end of this document. Review of project risks. So a project risk is an uncertain event that may or may not occur and could prevent the project from progressing as planned or from completing successfully. Risk management applies throughout the project scoping and lifecycle of project delivery. Risks can be inherited from the project or from external influences and can be identified through considering the project objectives and deliverables, reviewing project documentation, hosting a risk review session with the project team, and looking back at lessons learned from previous projects delivered. Once a risk has been identified, it is then documented in the risk log, which is located within the RAID log. When identifying risks, it is important to look at the impact to the quality, budget, and time, should it happen. By having awareness of the risk can help you mitigate against it materializing and reduce the risk on the overall project. We're now going to take a closer look at risk analysis. The likelihood refers to the probability of the risk occurring, and the severity is how impactful to the project the risk would be. The chart shows as the likelihood and severity increases, so does the overall level of the risk. For example, if you think the risk of not completing project activities and actions within the timeframe set out is a severity rated 4 and a probable likelihood rated 5, you would multiply 4 by 5 to get a risk impact of 20, which would be considered a high risk impact. By rating the level of risk will help you prioritize them and manage them effectively. We are now going to look at the most common types of risks that we see throughout the projects we deliver. And just to note, on the webinar control panel, there is a handout of this slide for you to download and take away with you if you'd like to do so. So user testing is one of the common risks across all projects, as this is reliant on users completing thorough end-to-end testing of all scenarios of the system. When this is not completed sufficiently, issues arise which impacts the business operations. This type of risk is user organization, resource, and skills. And the mitigation would be to create detailed test cases covering all scenarios to ensure the process is sufficiently tested end to end. It is also important that the test cases are understood and known what the expected outputs of each test case should be so these can be measured against effectively. Another common risk, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, is resource availability when completing a project, as project work is often scheduled into your busy day-to-day schedules and already on top of your existing role, which can lead to delays in completion of project activities. This type of risk is specific project activities, and the mitigation plan against the risk would be to review the required effort and understand resource availability, to see if responsibilities can be divided across multiple users to enable collaborative working. The key difference between an issue and a risk is that an issue has already occurred, and a risk is a potential issue that may or may not happen. Once an issue has been raised, it is then documented in the issue log, which is located within the RAID log. By keeping a log of your issues allows you to have a safe and reliable process for the team to raise issues. It helps you track and assign responsibility to specific people for each issue. In turn, this will help you analyse and prioritise the issues more easily and provide recorded issues resolution for future learning and monitoring the overall project status. A tip when documenting your issues is to use the traffic light status. This will provide you with an easy indication of whether issues are under control and you're able to gauge quickly off of the first glance. So red would represent cannot proceed before the issue is resolved and will be otherwise known as a showstopper. Orange is a resolution is in process and you'll be able to proceed soon. And green would represent when a resolution has been implemented and the issue no longer exists. Determining a project budget. The project budget is the total amount of money that will be required to deliver the project. And examples of project costs include human resources, so for example, salary rates, travel expenses, training fees, material resources, professional services, for example, our consultants and third parties, and budget tolerance. And a good project organisation would usually estimate between 5 to 10% for contingency purposes on a project. A project budget can be estimated through a bottom-up estimation or via top-down. And a bottom-up estimation is where you rate the individual parts of a project plan and add them up. And it involves estimating each part of the project, such as the tasks, milestones, and phases, and totaling them up to get the total project cost. Top-down estimation is the opposite to bottom-up, and it starts with the project budget total. It involves breaking it down into smaller chunks and will be typically used where you have a fixed price project with the budget set in stone. However, this can often cause misalignment as it's difficult to accurately predict the budget before you fully understand the scope of work and the plan. The project budget is an important control as it is essential in securing the project funding. By forecasting the amount of budget required will show stakeholders how much money is needed to deliver the project, when the funding will be needed, and how it's going to be used. It forms the basis for project cost control. So by having an end budget estimate will help you measure the project's actual cost against the approved budget, and it will also help provide an understanding of how the project is progressing and identify if any changes are needed to the project plan. It has a direct effect on a company's financial viability. When a project budget is calculated feasibly, it will increase the operating margin and improve the overall project success. How to prepare for a successful project. A stakeholder communication plan is a framework for ensuring that stakeholders will be included and kept informed at every stage. It should identify the relevant stakeholders and help your team to understand what needs to be communicated, why it needs to be communicated, and how often. So this may be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, depending on that stakeholder and their interests. It is really important to have a communication plan in place, and we will set one up with you. However, I'd also recommend you set one up internally to manage the progress from within your internal project team. Project organisation is crucial to the successful project delivery on time, to budget, and to specification. This involves identifying all key roles and defining their responsibilities, defining crystal clear terms of reference and accountabilities for all key roles and bodies, and defining ways of working for your team. Organisation can also involve areas such as effective mobilisation of new projects, developing team charters, define a governance structure that covers key responsibilities, accountabilities, authorities, and decision-making, and developing all key controls, specific measures of performance, and metrics that will be used by the entire team. Now we're going to look at some top tips and tricks that hopefully you can take away from today's presentation. The first one is having a central location, and some of you may already be doing this already, and this is to have a central location where you can store your project documentation that's accessible to all users. Maintain your own RAID log and review service delivery notes. So I'm sure you all already received the service delivery notes from the consultants after they've delivered a day on site. And it's important these are reviewed, actions are assigned, and that they're stored in the central location, so there's visibility on them for the entire project team. We then have schedule internal project meetings, dedicate time to review progress and provide visibility, document communication plan, and document the meeting minutes. We have scheduled dedicated project time for users each week to ensure tasks get completed in a timely manner and updated in the action log. And enable collaborative working. Have multiple users present in training and testing to increase the efficiencies and enable ideas to bounce around for new improvements. And lastly, identify and manage risks. As when you don't identify and reduce risks at the beginning of a project, they can often become issues later on. So by making sure you understand your risks early and learn from your previous projects, this way you'll have fewer issues to manage as you move forward. I hope you found today's presentation useful, and if you'd like to find out any more on our implementation and project management services, please visit our website and the links will be posted in the webinar chat. There is also a link to Voices on Project Management, which is a project management forum which is useful for blogs and access to a range of project management templates and tools you can utilise. So I'd recommend taking a look at that. Thank you for joining us, and if you've got any questions,